Hello and welcome to another episode of Off the Record with Kyle Sells Biz, where every week we bring a speaker that shares their insights and different topics that affects business owners and helps them grow their business, helps them get their business ready for exits or acquisitions. Today we have a very interesting topic we're very excited to talk about. It's a lot that happens in the mind game. It's often a roller coaster that business owners go through when they're contemplating some type of major business decision. And I have with me here Dr. Robyn Odegaard, and she has a wealth of knowledge on this particular topic. She's a sounding board for many executives and business owners. And I wanted to bring her on here today to shed light on this topic, navigating the emotional roller coaster of mergers and acquisitions. A little bit about Dr. Robyn. She's a former competitive beach volleyball player turned business psychologist and professional confidant. She did her graduate work in business psychology with a concentration in high performance in sport. She has been working with founders, executives, and other professionals for more than 15 years. Her expertise has been showcased through her TEDx talk, Creating Success Out of Chaos, and then 7 books she has co-authored or contributed to. In addition to her coaching work, Dr. Robyn is an in-demand keynote speaker, podcast guest, engaged in inspiring diverse audiences with her business acumen, her no-nonsense approach to dealing with the head trash, self-sabotage, and the psychological barriers that hold even the most successful people back. She's also happily shares her personal story and resilience after growing up in a cult. So I definitely was intrigued in hearing your story when you first met Dr. Robbins. It's a pleasure to have you on our talk today. So welcome to the program.
Thank you for that great introduction, Kyle. I'd appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, our talk today, so most of my guests, it revolves around merger and acquisitions, but the soft aspect of this, as far as the headspace that most business owners have, I definitely want to get your take on it, specifically on what keeps business owners up at night and how they deal with the demons that keep them awake at 3 in the morning. I know you did a talk on that, and I'd love you to share a little bit more about that. But before we get into the subject at hand, if you don't mind, maybe enlightening the guests a little bit about your background and what got you to this point in being a psychological MacGyver of sorts, right? Did I say that
Yeah,
right?
mental MacGyver,
MacGyver,
absolutely,
yes.
yes. So like you mentioned in the intro there, I did grow up in a cult, and I was married off at 18. That marriage did not go well. I learned 3 things about that guy. He was not very bright, he was badly in debt, and he had a drug problem. But those ended up being silver linings. Because he wasn't bright, he couldn't maintain the grooming that the cult had put in place about me being just a woman and not being very smart and not being able to, make decisions and being too emotional and all those things that they had taught me as a child. Because he was in debt, he needed to get a job. And having a job made me realize, oh wait, I can earn money. I actually interacted with other people. I am kind of smart. And the drug problem actually turned out to be a good thing because he got himself involved with a cartel that decided to steal his identity. Whoa. And they didn't like me. They wanted me out of the way. And so they convinced him that he could be better off without me, that I was holding him back. So if I ever write that book, it's going to be called I'd Like to Thank the Cartel. But after I got out of that marriage, I played some competitive beach volleyball for about 5 or 6 seasons. And that really got me interested in high performance because there were some days that I could get on the sand and it was like I could do no wrong. Like I could play this game. And there were other days that my partner would hold out a volleyball and say to me, Robyn, this is a volleyball. Have you ever seen one? Like my game was completely gone. So I had to go through another bad marriage. I made my own mistake and had to go through another bad marriage. But in the course of that, I got to go to college for the first time at 32 and really wanted to understand human behavior, high performance, how we achieve, how we stay achieving. I like to say you can burn hot, you can burn fast, you don't have to burn out. And that's what got me interested in kind of understanding this at a high performing level, both in sports as an athlete and then in business. And I take both of those things and merge them together in my work.
It's fantastic. I mean, your background's very intriguing, right? So, oh my gosh,
I like to say I understand chaos because I've been through it.
Yeah, that's without question. Let's talk a little bit about the challenge. What are the common challenges emotional challenges that business owners have, in the day-to-day running of their business?
So the highlight of it is head trash, which we can talk about exactly what that means. The
Yes.
fact that the further up the ladder you get, the fewer people you can trust and have conversations with. So it gets very lonely, both intellectually and personally. We can talk about that. And then the self-sabotage. So those are kind of the three things that happens. Head trash, it's lonely, and the self-sabotage. So let's start with head trash. Like, what is that? When I say that, what comes up for you? This is always an interesting answer when I ask people, like, what does head trash mean for you personally, Kyle?
Well, we take in a lot of input during the day, right? And I think when
Mm-hmm.
we later on in the evening, like we're like, okay, we have all this input. How do we process all that? Our mind never stops. I mean, for me personally, as an entrepreneur, you're always thinking about all
Mm-hmm.
different aspects of your business, and you're
Right.
processing all this data during the day. So that's what I think when I think of head trash. I have all this junk in my head I'm trying to get out.
Exactly. So I have some notes over here of other people I've asked this question,
Yeah.
and they've got the running commentary, right? The voice in their head,
Yes.
feelings of anxiety or stress, maybe some dread, barely suppressed panic. Someone once said to me when they talk about head trash, and another person told me she has song lyrics that are constantly bothering her. So I talk about head trash. Those are the things that entrepreneurs and people have said to me. Oh, yeah, that's what head trash is. So you've got all this going on, and then on top of that, as you get further up the ladder, it's lonely and isolating. And that's because you can't talk to just anybody. When you're new, a new employee, brand new, bottom rung, you can go into the lunchroom and you can complain. You can say, this isn't working. This is crazy. My boss is nuts. You can have that voice, and it doesn't really negatively impact you as long as you don't actually let the boss overhear you. But as you get further up, who are you going to talk to? You can't talk to your employees about how your business isn't working really well. You certainly don't want to talk to, if you've got funding, you don't want to tell your funders how stressed or worried you are. You can't talk to your board of directors. That's going to get you a vote of non-confidence. And so what you end up doing is not talking to anyone. And when I've asked people, when you really needed to talk through something, who did you talk to? I hear things like bartenders and taxi drivers. Even I've heard strippers, the trainer at the gym, the barber. And these are people who, A, you don't have a confidentiality agreement with, but they also may not have the business acumen that you're looking for to talk to. And
Correct.
especially for men, I find this is very true for men. They have bros, people they golf with, people they maybe go out drinking with, but not people they talk to. And so that isolation really grows as you get further up. And then the head trash noise is happening. And that's what leads to self-sabotage behaviors.
It's almost like a domino effect, right? And this trash piles up, right? So at some point you have to take out take out the trash, right? So
Right.
let's talk about that. So you mentioned about being lonely and the self sabotage. So how do you walk someone through this? Like how they can get rid of the trash in their head?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to list a couple of self-sabotaging behaviors just real quick so people kind of understand what we're talking about. And then
Yeah.
absolutely I'll give tips on how to fix it. So
Okay.
self-sabotaging behaviors are things like drinking too much. That's a big one I see. The further up the ladder you get, the more there is events you have to go to, and drinking becomes a stress reliever and a way to celebrate. So drinking too much is a common self-sabotage. Believing that the only person who can do things right is you. So this hyper independence of, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself, is a form of self-sabotage. The inability to delegate, recognizing that if somebody else can do it at 80%, you should let them do it. And then another one is imposter syndrome, not believing that you're as good enough, and that leads often to use what I call research as procrastination, where we're so busy trying to do it right, we never actually do the thing. So
Mm.
those are some evidences. And of course, ignoring your health, not getting enough sleep, all of those things. Eating food that's calorie rich but nutrition poor is very common because it's fast and easy. So those are some self-sabotages I see. But your question was, how do we fix it? So let's talk
But
about
before we
that.
get to that, I mean,
Oh
you
yeah,
hit
absolutely.
a lot of trigger points there, right? You talk about, so a lot of deals is done in the golf course, a lot of drinking is done in the country clubs.
Yep.
You talk about imposter syndrome. Sometimes you are seen to be, business seem to be bigger than life than they really are, and you talk about procrastination, and health is a big one. I mean, that's a lot that you touched on
Yep.
there. And then you talk about not getting enough sleep. How much is adequate sleep? And I've heard there's some studies that you actually don't need that much sleep if you can actually get some deep sleep, right? You can just go right to sleep as opposed to waking up all through the night and so on.
Hmm.
Let's dive a little bit more in those self-sabotage
Sure, I
things that
would love to do that. Thank you for
individuals
that
do. Yeah,
opportunity. Let's
yeah,
talk about sleep because you brought that up. The
yeah.
thing that I tell my clients is if you have a bedtime routine and you're going to sleep at a consistent time, so a good morning starts with going to bed on time. I have a nighttime alarm. So I have an alarm that says get ready for bed. So whatever I'm doing, it reminds me now is time, and I start my bed prep, and I spend about an hour kind of decompressing from my day to go to bed. So go to bed at a scheduled time. I don't care what time that is, whatever. You are getting enough sleep if you sleep through the night and then wake up without an alarm and you feel refreshed. If you are going to sleep and then waking up because the demons are keeping you awake at 3 a.m. and you're stressing and then in the morning you're groggy and you're drinking tons of coffee or whatever your stimulant of choice is to get through the day, you're not sleeping well, you're not getting enough sleep. So am I going to tell you need 8 hours? No, some people don't. But if you can't get up without an alarm and you feel miserable in the morning, you're not getting enough sleep.
Okay, I feel much better now because I don't have a wake up alarm and I
Good.
don't have a night alarm either.
Oh no. Do you have a schedule or do you just whenever you go to bed, you go to bed?
No, I have a schedule, and
Good,
I
good.
try to get in by 10 and get up around 5 o'clock. Usually it's about 11. I probably go about by 11 sometimes, 5:30.
Okay.
But for the most part, no alarms needed here. I've kind of
Good.
trained myself to not need one. Yeah, so those are great tips. I know I interrupted you before. You was going to go into some of the ways you can overcome these self-sabotaging things that folks do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So some of the common ones you'll hear are journaling,
yeah,
which is taking time to write. That's pretty common. Meditation is also another common one you'll hear. I know for me, regular meditation, like during the day, the way people think about meditation doesn't work well for me. I've tried for years. I can't get into it, but I do use sleep meditations at night. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll use sleep meditation. YouTube has tons of them for free. Just make sure you find one that doesn't have ads in it, obviously. I like sleep meditations, but that's obviously a really popular, hey, this is a way to deal with your stress and self-sabotage is to meditate. Um, Absolutely, without question, the pinnacle is to have a good coach. Have someone, when whether you call them a coach or a therapist or a confidant, whatever you call them, that's the pinnacle, is having someone you trust to help you talk through this stuff. You can also talk to yourself. And the point is, the reason that talking or writing works so well is that your brain kind of has two parts. You've got your emotional brain and you've got your physical, logical brain. So your emotional brain doesn't have access to language. It just feels stuff. It feels stressed. It feels anxiety. It feels dread. Those are all feeling words that I've given you to say this is what is going on in your emotional brain. If you have to talk about it, and sometimes I'll give my clients a feeling words list. If you Google that, several will come up. And to help them, tell me what you're feeling, tell me what's going on. If you have to talk out loud to me to explain it to me, it might be the first time that your logical brain has had a chance to hear it. Have you ever had a situation where you say something and you think, that sounds really dumb out loud?
all the time.
And that's because your logical brain hasn't had access to it till it actually came out of your mouth. So having the opportunity to put what you're feeling into words gives your logical mind access to it, and then you can actually work with it in that way.
Yeah, I love that. You know what? I think I'll speak myself personally. Sometimes you do get lazy. Like I do journal, I do meditate, and I look back at my journal, and I've seen that we all have high and low points in our personal business and career lives. And I've noticed you can actually see a trend after a while. You can go back and see, okay, what
Mm-hmm.
happened here? What happened at this point when you were on the top of the hill? What happened when you were at the bottom of the hill? You can look back at that journal, and
Mm-hmm.
then there are like gaps in my journal, right? Like, what happened here? Like, why did I not journal? And I realized that some of the things you were talking about earlier kind of gets in the way.
Mhm.
And journaling does allow that creativity to come out for you to be in the moment and be present and get all those emotions out. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Let's talk.
I
Was going
want
to
to
say
just
something.
add one real quick thing, because a lot of
Sure.
people, when they sit down to journal, they don't know what to write. So what
Right.
I will often encourage, if you don't know what to write, just write about your day. Just say, this is what happened today. Like, I know before you came on, you told me traffic was terrible for you today. That might be something you could just start your journal with. Oh, traffic was terrible today. And that gets you started.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, Dr. Robyn. It's like it's summer times. Like where all where all these
Where all these
cars
people
coming
come
from?
from? Why aren't they at
Oh
work
my gosh,
already?
insane, insane. So
So I interrupted you. Go ahead.
that's okay. I was going to mention that you are online with Cal Sales Biz and off the record with Dr. Robyn Odegaard. You're welcome to ask any questions. We have in the comment section, and we'd be happy to get to them. This is being streamed live and also being recorded. So if you're watching the recording, welcome, and you could put any questions in the comment, and we will get back to it. So yeah. So what I was going to say was, let's talk about high pressure situations, right? There's a lot of deal makers that listen to this, a lot of business owners that are doing in negotiating contracts. They're talking with their attorneys as far as going through their agreements for either purchase or sale. I mean, it's very stressful in an M&A environment.
Mhm.
And what are some tips? I know you mentioned a lot about journaling, meditating, getting a coach. Is there anything else you can share if you have an executive or a business owner that's in a high pressure situation? What are some tips and strategies you can do to overcome that?
Absolutely. So critical thinking under stress is basically what you just said. How do we remember to think critically under stress? And the first thing we have to do if we want to think critically is we have to manage our state. And when I talk about state, I'm talking about emotional state, psychological state, like the way that our brain is functioning. And I like to
Okay.
break this down in a really simple way. If you were to think about on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is being absolutely horrible, start over, go back to bed, this is terrible, and 10 being so euphoric, where do you usually sit?
Hmm.
So when I ask people, where are you? Like for me right now, I would probably say I'm a 6-7. And that for me is a really good state, because if you break it down into red, yellow, green, say red is from 4 to downward, maybe yellow would be from say 4 to 7 or 8, and then green would be 8 to 10. So for me, that kind of yellow state means that on, I'm focused, I'm not so euphoric that I'm not thinking straight. I'm also not so stressed that I'm not thinking straight. So
Hmm.
sometimes I'll ask my clients, rather than thinking about 0 to 10, that's a big range, just think, are you yellow? Are you green? Are you red? And what I tell people is, if you are red, do not try to have conversations. You are not in a good state. You don't have especially difficult conversations if you're in red. If you are all the way up in the very top of green and you're so euphoric, don't sign contracts, because you're not going to read them. You're not going to read them critically.
Interesting.
So try to be in that middle state. I like to be, 6.5, 7, up into like 8, 8.5 range. That for me, that space between the yellow and the green is really good for me. And I find that's good for my clients. And I know that sounds really simplistic, but I'm basically telling you, take a breath and ask yourself, am I red, yellow, or green? Also ask yourself, is the person I'm engaging with, do they seem to be red, yellow, or green? Because if they're red, don't send them on a walk. Do not talk to them. They are not in place to have a conversation.
I'll bring out the bourbon. No, we're not going to bring out the bourbon.
Oh, no, that goes back to the self-sabotage of drinking.
I love the color concept. They actually do that in elementary school. They have the color coded boards, and as opposed to asking kids, a number as far as how they feel, like the colors are significant based upon if they're sad, angry, and everything is. So I like that. And
Mhm.
I worked with a coach before, and is said the same thing in a similar capacity. They said that you want to have high lows and low highs. So you don't want to get
Mm.
too high. Essentially, you want to have high lows. So let's say you just strike the big deal, or you just had a big workout in the gym, or you laid it like you net green. You do want to bring yourself down just a little bit, because you want to remember that after a big high, there's going to become a low. So you want to be cognizant of the fact that you don't want to fall back off the cliff, to keep pushing to move forward. At the same time, when you're down in the gutter, you want to improve your emotional state to get you back up in what you would say would be the yellow section, because you want to remember that you were successful, you had great success in the past, and remember the last great project you completed, and get yourself back up out of the gutter, so to speak. So I do like staying. That's a good way to think about it, to be in the middle. And how I can relate to that, there are times where I've seen folks actually sign contracts. They're so happy to get this deal moving forward, and they're so elated in that green. They sign it. Holy crap! Like, what did I sign? I didn't read the fine
Yes, they
print.
don't read it. Yes.
Yeah, I was so emotionally checked out. I didn't really review the fine print, right? So I do like that. Let's talk about.
Can I add just real quick? I want to add,
Sure.
do notice the things that bring you joy and bring you happiness. Those are different things. Joy and happiness are different things. Do notice them. And so I'm not going to tell people, if you're really happy, tamp it down, but I am going to say, be realistic about it. And if things are in a bad place, tap into that joy, that future self, that, be proud of yourself for the past and be proud of yourself for the future. So yes, go ahead. You were going to change the subject.
That's so important. That's why I do agree with you 100% with journaling, because you can just look back at your life, right? It's like a canvas, right? You look back and like, wow, like I've done some amazing things, and actually writing down all, like documenting all of your accomplishments. Like if you're in a funk or whatever, you just go back to all your comments, like, wow, like, I've done some amazing things in my life, and I can do it.
I'm allowed to be proud of myself.
Yeah. So I've done a better job at, smelling the roses, so weekends I do, try not to work and health, and do a lot of strategy planning as far as future plans and so on. So done a better job. I couldn't say this was the same thing 4 or 5 years ago, where I was that guy 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to get work done. Right. So
right.
yeah. I'll talk to you then. So we have a comment. So Winnie says, maybe I can show it up here. Hold on. Yeah, so great key points on identifying self-sabotaging behavior. As business performance advisors, it is very important to observe the behaviors of each person's performance, knowing these indicators can surely help in how the advisor communicates with their performers. That is a great point. Thank you, Winnie. Let's discuss the importance of having emotional resilience and grit, right? Sometimes just pushing through, like, let's say you're in the red or you're borderline, and you still have to push through, right? And get through the day, right? You may be in a funk, or maybe you're working on a big deal, you just got an offer for your company and you're stressed the hell out, but how do I get through the day, right? Have that emotional grit and resilience.
And part of that is making sure that you haven't run your tank completely dry.
Mm.
If you are running at 99% all of the time, when a flood comes in, you're overwhelmed. So that goes back to the taking care of your health, making sure you're eating nutritious food, not just calories, making sure you're getting sleep, all of these things, you're not self-sabotaging. The best way to be resilient is to be prepared. And then also consider, I would love to get your take on this. What do you think the difference is between resilience and stubborn?
And what's the last word?
Being stubborn.
I think you got me as stubborn. I haven't heard that term before. Stubborn. What's that mean?
So stubborn is digging your heels in and not giving up and just being really like, I'm in this. And
like stubborn. Okay.
Whereas resilience is more forward thinking. For me, resilience is more forward thinking. So I often remind my clients there's a difference between resilience and stubborn, and it's a fine line.
I mean, it's a huge difference, right? Stubborn is kind of being ignorant, right? You're just not even listening, not even, you're just stuck. Even though you heard, even there's a solution, there's a way out, you just, I'm going to keep doing it my way. And, I don't care if I'm going to drive off the cliff or not, but I'm just going to stick what I'm doing and keep doing the same thing over and over. That's wrong, right? So, yeah.
So being resilient and having that grit also comes with believing in yourself, believing that I can do hard things. I have done hard things in the past, and I can do this thing. And even if it doesn't work, I can pivot.
Yeah. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to adapt, right? You have to adapt. Things are changing all the time. So I have a question here. is it wise to reschedule critical appointments? I'm assuming.
Oh,
Uh,
if you're not ready to have them, yes.
mhm.
If you are in, like we talked about, the red state,
Yeah.
and you have a critical appointment coming up and you know you're not in a state and you can't get yourself there. And there are different ways you can do to get there. We can talk about that in
Yeah, I want to
a
talk about,
hurry. If
that.
you can't get yourself there, reschedule it. It's going to go badly. So absolutely. Thanks for that question, Winnie. Reschedule.
So let me go tell you one tip that I do. Um, I know you're a former athlete, so you can probably relate to this. I do visualize my appointments before. Like today,
Mm.
I'm meeting with the owner of a physical therapy practice that's looking to sell, and
Oh,
I already
congratulations.
visualize how that appointment is going to go. Like the night before I sit down, I go through my agenda as far as all my appointments for the day, and I mentally walk myself through it, almost like an athlete that's visualizing the race before it's ran.
Nice.
So even though a critical issue comes up during the day, I've been there, I've done it before. I'm going to get it done. I really like. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I don't like rescheduling appointments. If you're not prepared for it,
If you're
I
not
100%
prepared.
agree. If you're not prepared, um, you know, find some way to work around it, because you don't want to have you don't want to be in that red state walking in the room like
You can't. If
you know,
that is your only option,
palms
reschedule
are
it. But
sweaty, your hair is all messed up, and your
yeah.
shirt is not ironed, and you spilled your coffee on your shirt. You just have a bad day. Just get
But
it. So,
here's a way that you can get yourself out of the red.
yeah.
If you have to, if you're under time pressure and you have to get yourself out of the red,
Yes.
act like a toddler and throw a temper tantrum. Literally shake your body, jump up and down, scream if you have to. Literally throw a temper tantrum off camera, obviously, before the meeting starts, because that will reset your physical state and be able to get you to a point where you're like, okay, whew, now I'm ready. But yeah,
Interesting.
that throw a temper tantrum, do it. I'm telling you, it makes a difference.
Is that easier for women than for guys? I don't know.
In private, it's good for everybody.
I gotta try that. Maybe I get a punching bag, and whenever I have a bad day, it's out. Getting the
Jump up
stress
and down
out.
and just shake.
Thought
That gets
about that. I
out.
actually was in a seminar one time where if you're in a really bad state, just drop down, do 20 push-ups. So I do that sometimes. I just drop down,
Yes,
do
same
20, and that
thing.
just changes my whole mood. So Kevin says, I think being stubborn generally shows a closed state of mind. I 100% agree. Resilience means you
Mhm.
have an open mind and can be flexible. Perfect. Well,
I love that.
well,
Well stated, Kevin. Thanks.
yeah, well said. Um, so what else we want to talk about here? I mean, the key line here was the head trash, right? We did touch on that. Um, Anything else like to share on that? Because I mean, everyone has these nights sometimes where they can't sleep and they have stuff that has been lingering through the day that they're just,
Mhm.
it keeps them up at night, and you kind of start working at a roller coaster self sabotage. So,
Yeah.
anything else
So
you want to share about that, Dr.
yeah,
Robyn?
I would love to talk a little bit about the two different types of fear you might run
Okay,
into in the middle of the
cool.
night. It shows up as fear. One is intuition based fear. This is the part of your brain that's like, this is a bad idea. We should not do this. And that's the part of your brain you should listen to. When you start having intuition based fear, it means that you are basing on your experience, knowledge, hey, this isn't working. And you got to start lean into that. Ask yourself, what's going on? Tell me more. The other type of fear is trauma based fear. And that is just your brain going, I'm freaking out. This isn't working. This is terrible. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
That's the kind of fear you have to walk through. And often we're told success is on the other side of fear. That's true if it's trauma based fear. If it's intuition based fear, you'll make a mistake. And trust me, I have walked through intuition based fear and made $20,000 mistake before in my life. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I like that. What else we have here? So Kevin is asking, and I'll put it up and so everyone can see. Doesn't rescheduling lead to procrastination? Is it better to talk yourself and go on with
Get
it?
on with it. So that's an interesting point. If you're rescheduling because you're afraid or you don't want to or you're worried or all of that kind of thing, yes, that's procrastination. If you're rescheduling because you are freaking out and you've got, I don't know, maybe you got really bad news, maybe your mother just passed away, something horrible happened and you're not in a position to have that meeting, that's not procrastination, that's self-preservation and it's a good idea.
Great answer. Great answer. So, Dr. Robyn, I mean, I really appreciate you joining us. I know there's so much we can talk about. This is a topic that, for me personally, working with clients, it is an emotional roller coaster going through a sale or any major business decision, and having a sounding board, someone like yourself, and talk about the importance of having a coach, someone, I guess a therapist of sorts, whatever you want to call it, right? A mental MacGyver, right? Whatever
Yep.
you want. Talk about the importance of having someone. I know sometimes, like I've had clients that clearly have quite a good little insight as far as the clients that I work with. Majority of the time, they're looking to retire, right? They want to spend time with
Hmm.
their grandkids. They want to do stuff that they didn't get a chance to do when they were younger. Sometimes they deal with a health issue, a debt or divorce. And to your point earlier, they kind of isolate themselves in a bubble. And hey, I've grown a successful company. I'm the big bad macho boss. I've done very successful. I can get through this, and this leads to drinking. Also, we talked about self-sabotage and again getting enough sleep, and they don't take the time. You know what? I need to get some sort of professional help, right? How do you get folks like that and engaged? And tell us more about how you work with business owners that are constantly involved in high pressure situations.
Yeah, so I work in the space kind of between executive coach and therapist and best friend, where it's super isolating and really lonely. And for me, like I don't go to somebody and be like, "You need me." I never say that. I just say, "Hey, this is what I can how I can help you. Let's just have a couple of hours. Let's spend a couple of hours together and have some conversations." And what I find is that these super powerful, like you use the word macho, got their act together. Everything from the outside looked like it's working. When I start talking to them, within about 45 minutes, they say things to me like, "Can I be really honest with you?" Please, absolutely. And I think part of that is because I have the professional background of being an athlete. So I know that drive. And I'm also capable of saying, "Hey, I know this is hard." And so they come and say, "Okay, I want to have this honest conversation with you." And not often, because they don't come to me and say, "I need help." They come and just say, "I think I could benefit from having you on my team and having you as my person." And my business model is such that, yes, we meet regularly, we have scheduled meetings, but they also get an individual ringtone in my phone. So when stuff goes sideways, they can text me or call me and I can be there to support them.
I'm curious, do you have different pitch, different types of ringtones based on a client? Like, do you have like the emergency alarm ringtone for the crazy clients, and you have
So I allow my if they want to, I let my client choose their own ringtone. And my only rule is it can't be vulgar. I cannot have a vulgar ringtone going off on my phone. That's not okay. But like my athlete clients will often choose like their walk-on song or something like that. My corporate clients are more likely to be like, "I don't care, pick whatever." And then I choose something like if they're in tech, I try to pick a sound that sounds techy or something. But yeah, they get individual ringtones, so I know from across the room, "Oh, I know who that is."
that reminds me. So back in the day, so those of you that were BlackBerry users can relate. So I'm a huge BlackBerry guy, and I gave it up 2 years ago. So I've been using a BlackBerry for a long time.
Wow.
So I used to have, believe it or not, I used to have my when the phone rings, I used to have that little dot that shines, like color coded.
Oh, okay.
So I have the ringtone, but I had different colors based upon if it's a business client calling, family, if it's an emergency, whatever, it would actually light up. So it's funny.
My calendar is color coded like that.
Yeah, yeah. So, so I appreciate you being here, Dr. Robyn. Is there any final thoughts, and how can folks get a hold of you to learn more about your services and working with you?
Absolutely. Well, we're on LinkedIn, so obviously you're welcome to reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, however you'd like. You can also go to my website, mentalmacgyver.com, and there's a button at the top of it that says, I think, "Let's talk" or "Let's chat." If you click that button, you can get 25 minutes on my calendar. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. If you want to hear the talk that I gave called "Take Out the Head Trash: How to Fight the Demons Keeping You Awake at 3 a.m." That's on YouTube, and you can find that at Dr. Robyn on YouTube. And I guess as a final thought, I want to repeat what I said at the top. You can burn hot, you can burn fast. You don't have to burn out.
Oh, I love that. I love hard, fast, don't burn out. I'm going to make a note of that. And I highly recommend watching Dr. Robyn's talk on YouTube about taking out the head trash. It's very informative, and a lot of the points that we touched on today, she covers in depth in that YouTube. So I highly recommend. And we have some thank yous here. So Winnie says, "Thank you, Kyle, for hosting this valuable discussion. Appreciate you very much. Thank you, Dr. Robyn, for sharing your priceless key points for keeping us mentally healthy, and successful. Most appreciated." So you got some flowers there, Dr. Robyn.
Yeah, and I saw Kevin's comment too, so that was really kind. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you daily for being on our program, and looking forward to keeping in touch and collaborating. And I appreciate you and everyone that's tuning in today. If you're watching the recording, you can still post your questions in the comments, and we do our best to get back to you. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Kyle.
Appreciate it.